especially for the first couple, like you want to make the numbers work because you're excited or you fall in love with a specific property or you start to get emotionally tied to it. And that's when bad stuff can happen. What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host,
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets. What's going on, STR Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast. I am your host, Mike Sjogren, here with my main man and brother from another mother, Mr. Emmanuel Pani. What's up, E?
My brother. So good to see you. So I don't even know when this episode is gonna air because we've been recording a lot of shows. So this is probably gonna be into 2023. And hopefully by now everybody has seen it. But do we want to talk about this AI chat thing? Have you seen that?
Like the pictures that's getting like...
No, the chat GPT is this AI that you can ask it something. So Tasha's little brother is super into like writing code and everything else. So like he introduced us to it, right? And it's this AI that you can give it a simple task and it just runs with it. Like, for example, we used it for write us a job description for a groundskeeper. And within seconds, it just writes a job description for a groundskeeper. Write us a job description for an operations manager.
Damn.
It's such an interesting little thing because, again, like in understanding how to leverage our time and understanding how to leverage our resources, if you're somebody that is running a lean organization and you're like, I need to write a bunch of stuff, and like I am good at like the refining, but I'm not good at like the big bulk of the writing. There is now AI out there that can become part of your team, and you just you ask questions, you just let it run with it.
See, I use Jasper for a lot of my copywriting stuff, but you have to like write out whatever it is, and then it just makes it better, basically.
Dude, you have to see this. It's the craziest thing. And obviously, like by the time I think they got to 1 million users in 5 days.
Whoa.
So, anyways, hopefully the AI just doesn't start talking by itself.
Well, I always go to back to Terminator, and I picture like Arnold Schwarzenegger coming out with like...
No, mostly like, you know what the scary thing is? That how do you know the difference? Like how, like especially talking to somebody via email, like this thing, like if the AI learns how to communicate properly, how will you know the difference if you're speaking to a person or you're speaking to a...
Dude, me and you are just gonna be hanging out on the beach, just letting this thing run everything for us.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine?
We don't even need to podcast anymore. It'll just like voice over for us.
Yeah.
Like, meh.
What will Josh and Mike talk about today? And it just like boom, and just makes it. So anyway, I'm excited. Also it's the end of December, so like World Cup final is on Sunday, and
Who's in it? It was like what, like France, Croatia,
and Argentina.
Okay.
And you know what I love about this like World Cup, Olympics, is just the fucking heart. Like there's so much heart, like these people, there's so much heart, and there's so much like fun, and there's so much love, and it's such a like good way to like end the year. And I hope like, I mean, I've been feeling super like, I don't know, like super, I'm like, dude, the underdogs went pretty far this World Cup, and I think it's a good energy to take into the new year, you know?
100%.
So, but anyways, I'm excited for our guest today. It's kind of an interesting little concept.
Yeah, and he's got a great backstory, so I don't want to like spoil too much. So today on the show we've got Josh Goldstein, and he is a freelance producer in the entertainment industry, And after he had some crazy stuff happen, I don't want to steal his thunder because I want him to go into more details about this, but he had some crazy stuff happen personally, and he realized that he couldn't just rely on trading time for money. And I totally get where that comes from, being in a similar situation. And so we started buying short term rentals in the beginning of 2020, and he's been growing using lines of credit and saving cash. And now he's got 11 short term rental properties. He's got one in I can never say this right. Idlewild, one in Big Bear, and 9 in the Smoky Mountains. So, Josh, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. How do you? I always screw up that town. Is it Idlewood?
Idlewild.
Idlewild.
Yeah.
Idlewild. Okay, cool. So again, I know you had some crazy stuff happen, and I didn't want to steal your
Yes.
thunder. So kind of walk us back through. It sounds like you got a pretty cool like gig going on with this like producer. I don't really know what that actually means. So maybe like talk more about that, and then let's dovetail that into how you got into all this.
Sure. Yeah. So my particular job as a producer, I could almost relate it to a contractor, where a contractor gets a bunch of subs, manages a budget, oversees the schedule, and is managing the client who's the builder, the homeowner that's renovating or building. I kind of do that, but for the film industry. So, I you know, present options to the director and the clients for a cinematographer, and then put together the crew and get the keys together and the makeup and hair and wardrobe and whatever, and put everything together and make sure we're on budget and on time.
Thank you for explaining that. That analogy is perfect because I always wondered what the hell does a producer do? And I know it's not just some cushy role. I knew it was like in the weeds somehow, but I didn't understand what that actually meant. So thank you.
Sure. And there's different kinds of producers. So in particular, I'm a line producer for commercials, music videos, stuff like that. But I've done a bit of everything in the past, and a little bit of jack of all trades because I came from the bottom and rose up.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it.
Did you ever put a commercial in one of your Airbnbs?
You mean put my Airbnb in one of the commercials?
Yeah, why not? It's just like we need a cool spot to film. I was like, I know
Not
this place.
not
I can get you
yet.
guys a great deal.
Not
$20
yet.
off.
For the
Yeah.
most part, I mean, it depends on the concept of the commercials.
Yeah,
So
true.
through COVID, the main thing that I was working on is AT&T, like all the spots with Lily. And most of those have been in a store, which we've actually built in the stage. So we don't get to go out and about too much with those concepts. But
Yeah.
in the
So-
future, I do plan on that. I mean, if I can make it work, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
So how does that translate to real estate investing and specifically vacation rentals? Like how did you decide to get started?
So I guess this goes back to the crazy part of the story that you're referencing. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy my job, and I never really saw me stopping, and never thought about saving money too much, and was just spending as I was growing more and more. And then beginning of 2015, I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and so I had a really big reality check. And basically being freelance, and at the time, actually, we were renovating the house that we live in right now, and we went into debt to do it. And I got diagnosed, and they basically said I wouldn't be able to work for who knows how long. So I didn't quite know what I was going to do, and I do think in the back of my mind, I knew I needed to do something, even outside of the cancer diagnosis, because I was trading my time for money. And if I wanted to go on vacation, I'm spending money on the vacation, but I'm also turning down jobs and losing that money as well. But after I was diagnosed, basically it was a full year of chemo, radiation. I had surgery and then more chemo. And during that year, I also read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was like a brick to the head. And I felt like an idiot not realizing this before, but, I recovered. And after I recovered, I went full force into work and just got out of debt, made sure I was financially okay. And then, during that whole time, I was learning about real estate investing at that point because I had found bigger pockets and started listening to podcasts, webinars, audiobooks, reading books, whatever I can consume, I would. And that led me to short-term rentals in the beginning of 2020 after a podcast I heard on Bigger Pockets with Avery Carl.
Oh, we love
Love
Avery. That's
Love it.
awesome. And so how did you get started? Where was the first one? Did you start in the Smokies? Where did you start?
I did, yeah. So the first one, after I had a conversation with her, we were looking on the MLS and we found 2 cabins on 2 acres of land in the Smokies. I believe it was for $635,000. And it was a 3-3 and a 2-2. And this was February 2020. Went into contract, and this is at a time when there weren't multiple bids and we could kind of take a little bit more time. But got it under contract. Had never been there, so my family and I flew out there for inspection for the very first time and kind of explored the area and learned as much as we could about it. Flew home, and the day that I was closing was the day that everything shut down with COVID. And I was texting Avery saying I didn't even know if I could find a notary because I didn't know what was going to be open or closed or whatever. She mentioned that a lot of clients were backing out, and I could back out if I really wanted to. But something in me just said, you know what, even if it doesn't rent for a while, I've never done this. I'm going to take my time to like figure out my listings and interview cleaners and maintenance people and kind of figure this out. And I was prepared to pay for the mortgage for a little bit while I figured all this out and while no one knew what's happening with COVID.
Damn. So you scaled quick, right? So like you've gone from like 1 to, or I thought I read are all 11 live, or it said that you had a bunch like in the works too. So
yeah, I'm renovating 6 right now. So
At the same time?
So 5 of them are on one property and they're all smaller cabins. It's 7 acres of land. There's a pond. One of them was on a property that I already owned, and there was a long-term renter in there. They had moved out, and we've been renovating that one as well.
Wow.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So I'm trying to even see where to go with that, because that's pretty aggressive growth for like purchasing too, right? So
yeah.
After you went through all the health stuff, did you just start like, once you were able to get back to work, did you just start like stacking as much cash as you could?
I did. Yeah. I basically, because during the year of, the cancer treatment, obviously we weren't really spending any money except for hospital bills and medical bills and stuff like that, which was a lot. But we got used to not spending as much. And in the past, we were not those people. We would spend too much, maybe. So I think after I recovered and the medical bills stopped and we kind of scraped our way out of debt, we just kind of saved as much as we could. And I was working like crazy. I was taking every single job that I possibly could. So I feel like I was scaling up how much I was making as well. And like I said, all the meanwhile, like, I'm stuck in the car driving from here to here in LA. I'd be listening to things for real estate, like podcasts and audiobooks and stuff to learn as much as I could.
Love it. Love it. So now what does your team look like now? Right? Because it sounds like you got a lot going on, right? And I think a lot of people are like, how do you handle all of that? Right. So we'll talk about the construction separate, but just from running your current operations, what does that look like? Are you using any VAs, or is it just you got a really good tech stack that you're able to automate a lot of it? Like, let's talk through that first.
Right now I have one VA. I've only recently hired her. But realistically, I think my tech stack and my messaging has really helped. I hired the VA because I'm preparing for when the 6 renovations are done and I more than double my portfolio. I just want to be as prepared as I possibly can when that goes live.
Yeah, I think we hired our first at like 8 properties. Like you can get by for a while without it, like you said, with a good tech stack. But I found once I hit like 8, it was like, all right, man, like you gotta start offloading some of this. So that's great. That's great. And so just out of curiosity, because you've got a decent chunk in a couple different markets, have you noticed a slowdown in say the last 30 to 60 days for any of your stuff?
I would say no. The last 30 to 60 days have been pretty busy. Before that, I'd say 2022 in general was slower than 2021. I think 2021 was just bonkers with, how much all the cabins were rented. Um, but that being said, I think I underwrit everything very conservatively. So my occupancy can be quite low and still cover everything and make a little bit of profit. So we still did well this year.
Yeah.
Love it.
I would love to take us into, because if I understood correctly at the beginning, Mike talked about how you purchase using line of credits, right? And I think that's a unique kind of perspective, and I don't think we have had a lot of people on the show that have leveraged line of credits. So if you just kind of explain how you got qualified, what those look like, and how you leverage them to help you grow.
Sure. So the house that I'm in right now, I mentioned we renovated it, and um, this is before I was a real estate investor and knew pretty much anything about real estate investing. I did love real estate and I loved design and I loved looking at values and as a guilty pleasure, I love like watching HGTV type shows and renovation shows and stuff like that. So when we bought this house, we knew we wanted to have a project and have something to renovate. We wound up buying this house as a short sale. I think we went into escrow the end of 2013, and escrow was, I think, 7 or 8 months, because there's 3 liens on it. They all had to cooperate, and every 2 times a week, I feel like we thought we were going to lose it, and so we were trying not to get too emotionally attached to it because this was a personal residence. But we found out that we closed, we gutted it down to the studs and made it what it is. And so the value just from that process created so much equity in my property that, and then over time, and I didn't do anything with it. Over time, appreciation happened and it just got more and more valuable. So when I did start investing, I wound up getting a HELOC on the property. So basically, that line of credit is a big bank account that I use as almost my personal hard money lender. So I could just pull it out. Like I could pay for things depending on the price in cash. I could pay for renovations and then start paying it back with either a refi or just with cash flow from the short-term rentals.
I think I'm glad that you said that, to look at it from that lens, because I see a lot of people use a HELOC as almost like another mortgage, that they're like, oh, I can stretch this out over 20 or 25 years. And I'm like, you can, but like what I'd rather see you do is like what you said, is use it almost like a hard money loan and ideally get that thing paid off or find a way to refinance something else to not keep it like wide open. Like you want to be able to use it, pay it off, use it, pay it off. Right. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a key distinction, especially because a lot of the HELOCs are, at least all the ones that I'm familiar with, they're all variable interest rates. So like
Correct.
right now, interest rates are going up. I just pulled out a sizable HELOC to do the next hotel deal that we're doing. But again, I have a plan in place to pay that thing off within 18 months.
Yeah.
So it's like you can leverage that stuff. You just want to have the right mindset going into it. And like E talks about, it's like if you have the right tools and you know how to use them properly, they work very well. It's just if you're trying to use a hammer to do a drill's job, it you can make it work, but it's going to be a lot more stressful and it's not ideal, right? So,
And I think that's been part of the reason, probably, and just kind of guessing out loud, but part of the reason why you've been able to grow so quickly is how well you've utilized that cash that you had in creating repetitions, right? Because that is where a lot of the people in real estate, especially, they do it at size where they make money with their investors, because they're like, when I got started in Missouri, that's something John and I did as well. We used to have investors, and then our goal was, okay, can we turn this money that they gave us for this 12 to 18 month period? Can I turn it 3 times, 4 times? How many times can I turn it? Because the more times I can turn it, the more money I'm making, especially with an investor note where it's a fixed return. I'm like, great. Once I turn it more than twice, it's all gravy, right? And so really understanding like how to execute quickly and execute well, and then we just like replenish it as fast as possible, because then you need a war chest, especially now going into 2023. I think it's very important to get a war chest going, or if you have like Josh, a way of like taking on more jobs so you can start really like bringing in more and more cash. This is kind of like that next 6 to 12 months where you want to do it so that you're ready for anything really. You know what I mean?
Something that I had realized, I guess kind of early on in my real estate investing career or journey, is that as much as I love design and architecture and even hosting guests and stuff like that, I realized real estate investing is really about moving money around. And once you understand that, it's almost making a swirl of money and lines of credit. And as it swirls around, you're creating it so that it gets bigger and bigger, and you could take on more and more. When I first did my first renovation, because I did start with some turnkey stuff, because I do have a mix of long terms as well. So I did some turnkey for long term, and for short term, my first cabins were kind of turnkey. But then my next projects, and actually everything after that, were more renovation value add. And the first one was stressful because, I had a couple short-term rentals and a handful of long-term rentals that I was using all that cash flow to pay for renovations and whatnot. But it's not enough because, it's not that much cash flow with just a couple. But as you grow and more cash flow comes in, you could use more of that stuff to grow and make, do renovations for bigger projects and stuff like that.
Yeah. Can we talk about kind of like your underwriting process? Because you said something that's important that E and I have been harping on for the last 2 months heavily, is really knowing your numbers when you go into a deal. And I think a lot of people, whether it's like childhood issues, whatever, they're like, I'm not a numbers person, right? Like this feels like a foreign language. And I'm like, it's really honestly like basic math. So like when you get over that hump, and I'm asking you specifically because your primary job, most people would think, is like super creative, right? Like you're kind of in that arts and entertainment industry where like numbers you don't really associate with that. So if you could walk through that process, I think that would add a lot of value to people.
Yeah, my day job as producing is I actually look at budgets all the time, and so our budgets are somewhat complex because it manages lots of vendors and crews and whatnot. And I, for the longest time, would study them and figure out where we could save money and where we could cut corners and where we could add to other things. Because you know, in that business, I don't love saying no to a director or a client. Like I want to give them what they want, right? And so if I could move the money around in there, I can save some money here and then spend it on something else to make the best possible product. So I've
Mhm.
kind of taken that approach to real estate investing as well. And when I underwrite my deals, I pad almost everything when I'm doing the underwriting. So everything's pretty conservative. So when, there is a slump in the market and people aren't renting as much, I still feel quite confident, with a very low percentage of occupancy, and I could still at least break even that way.
Yeah. I think that's huge. Like stress testing your numbers, right? So if you're analyzing a deal on STR Insights or AirDNA or whatever, and you're getting numbers, if it's telling you, just to make the number simple, if it's telling you it can gross or bring in 100,000, all right, well, great. Set that as a baseline. But what if it does 75? What if it did 60? Right? Like, would you still be in the black or would you start losing money?
Right.
And I've been working with somebody that we're going to be partnering on some hotel stuff, and I've probably analyzed 15 hotel deals with this person the last week. And he's like, "Man, like these numbers." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a numbers game and it's getting tighter right now." So like you got to be patient and just, especially for the first couple, like you want to make the numbers work because you're excited or you fall in love with a specific property or you start to get emotionally tied to it, and that's when bad stuff can happen. Like you've
Mhm.
always got to look at it objectively from a number standpoint. This is a business, like you said, of just moving money around, and how quickly can I increase that money by putting it in the right assets? Like it's an investment first and foremost.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And there's no way of saving it, right? Like that's the thing that people don't understand. And that's what the old saying is, like in real estate, you make money when you buy. Because there is no way of you to save something if it's bad once you're in it. Right. And like again, like I am guilty of this myself a lot of times in my life. It's just like I confuse momentum with accomplishment, right? So like I want to get started, so I'll do something that gets the ball rolling, but there is no system, no procedures behind it, and it's not a real it's not real progress, right? I'm just getting the momentum going. So it is the same thing, right? Like you're underwriting the properties, you're getting the momentum going, but you're still need to buy the things that make sense, that you have run your numbers on, that make sense, and not get it. Like there's so many deals, like you can just make offers until the right one comes along, right? So the momentum should be towards that versus like I need to buy one now, I need to get one now live, I need to start if the numbers are right. If not, you just have to keep making offers until the numbers are right, right? So don't get like, I do that all the time. I think about it's like human nature. It's like when you New Year's resolution, and the first thing you do is you go out and buy a new pair of shoes to go to the gym. When you still have the shoes that you bought at the beginning of 2022 that you still haven't worn, right? So like, do you need it? But it's like the thing, you're like, you get yourself in the momentum of things. Whereas the most important thing is actually doing the thing, the action
Definitely.
thing, not the surrounding stuff.
Yeah.
So,
So I
sorry.
was just gonna say, I'm curious from like a high level now, what's kind of like your goal or your strategy going forward now? You've got these 6 in the pipeline now. Where do you see this going for you? Because like you said, you love doing what you're doing. So how far do you want to take this, or do you have an end game in mind for like what you're trying to get to, or from a strategic standpoint, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to get these 6 projects stabilized and up and running and going. So for me personally, I'm not necessarily going to buy anything more until that's done. But I did link up with some other investors, and we are starting a short-term rental and hotel fund. And some of them, already have several boutique hotels. So we're going to use that to scale more and more while I'm finishing my personal projects.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Is there like a specific target that you guys have in mind for like 2023 or like the bigger play, or is it just kind of like we just want to buy some big shit?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a fund, not a syndication. We are raising $10 million, and we are just going to get the best possible deals that we can. And with that fund, it will allow us to move a little bit more swiftly when it comes to making offers. And if we need to do a cash offer and then refi afterwards, we can, which might help us get some better deals as well.
Love it. Love it. E, what do you got? I cut you off.
No, I was saying, so like what my question was kind of the same. So what's the vision for the future, right? Like understanding that. But it's awesome because I very much share in that, meaning like I am a big proponent and personal project kind of buckets, and then like legacy projects. You know what I mean? The projects that like will make a difference to your family and your kids and the future, right? And really like having this good balance of both, because I think they feed the soul and the level of personal satisfaction in a different way, right? Like there is the stuff that is just yours that you do for you personally, for your family, and versus the big things with a lot of people that are very exciting.
Hmm.
But to me, at least, they feed me in a different way. So I love that you're spending time doing both, and I think that's where it really starts becoming fun, because then when you do both, it's just like, okay, like now my lifestyle is covered. Now my lifestyle is really covered. Okay, now it's really covered, and I just
Right.
like, and then you just keep doing deals, and you just keep snowballing, and then stay more and more in your one thing. Do you see yourself wanting to continue your 9 to 5 job, or is there a goal, a plan to exit after a
S-
magical number of units? Or
Sure. Being freelance, it's actually something where I just want to become pickier when it comes to the projects that come to me.
Mhm.
So I'm not, like after I recovered from cancer, I was taking absolutely everything, and double booking and doing everything I could to make money. But now I will turn down jobs and kind of like just be a little more selective. I want to be able to take a month off or 2 months off and go on vacation with my family, or just plan trips and feel confident in turning down other jobs. So ultimately, no, I think I'm going to keep working in my industry because I do enjoy it and I love the people that I work with and I love the work that I do. But it'll just be less of it.
Well, it's more freeing, right? Because it's like you're doing it not because you need a paycheck, just because you like to do it. So you can just be way more selective. I love it. I love it.
A friend of mine who runs a company introduced me recently to some people as a gentleman producer, meaning I do it when I need to, or just want to, not need to.
I like it. I like it. I'm curious, what advice would you have for some folks that maybe, because it's almost like everybody thinks that like we're all about like you have to quit your job, and that's not the case. It's like, dude, if you like what you're doing, keep doing it. But it's nice to have that cushion, or it's the extra income or whatever, to just create some security around yourself. What's some advice you have for people that are kind of on the fence about getting in?
Yeah, I mean, again, I do think a lot of people that we interact with are looking to quit their job, whereas that's not my goal. And I think the people that also don't love their job and don't want to quit, it's still so important to invest in this stuff because the cash flow's great, but more than that is building the equity and doing the loan pay downs and just building wealth overall. It's something that's going to last because you never know what's going to happen in your job. As secure, even though I'm freelance as I was in my job and I had enough relationships that I could stay super busy, something out of left field came and kind of knocked me down and it was completely not work related at all. So it's like anything could happen to anyone and you need to be prepared.
Yeah. And I also love for people to like realize, and Mike had this quote at the end of his presentation in Nashville, right? And it's just like, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it goes along the lines of like, life will always give you what you ask of it. And so you realize that sometimes you ask too little, and that's what life gave you, right? And to me, there is like this shame in like, still very much so, in wanting to like make more money, right? It's like, I have a good job. Why would I start a side gig with Airbnbs? Why would I do that? Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Like there is no limitation. And again, like even if you do the same things, you now have the freedom of taking 2 months off to go travel without having to have that like internal kind of yanking of like, I'm leaving opportunities on the table. I should be doing this instead. I should find a way to do it, right? And again, like to me, that's real wealth. Like the moment that you can meet a client or meet a property owner and you have grown a portfolio to the size that you meet a person and you're just like, oh, I don't like you. And I'm not gonna work with you, right? Like I don't like this project. This project doesn't fire me up. I'm not gonna do this, right? But to me, that commitment to that level of life and of like freedom is what makes life worth living. Because then to me, life doesn't feel heavy. Because you're like, I get to hang out with Mike and I get to hang out with my friends and my owners are awesome and my properties are beautiful and I walk around and I look at real estate that I love all day long and like I put deals together and I take people for lunches and we go out and we just see things and we see opportunities and we do renovations. I'm like, I love this shit. Like I would win the Powerball tomorrow and I would just do the same thing I do now, just with a lot more money. Right. And I'm like, and that should be the goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like stay in your job if you love it. And if you don't like it, find a way to like it or find a job that you like if you need to have that security and safety. They're not mutually exclusive, right? You can have a security and safety job and invest in real estate and create financial freedom that then just goes to fund more financial freedom.
Job security is bullshit. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
It's
I
complete
agree.
bullshit.
Yeah.
What gives you real freedom is what you just did, right? Like now if something happened, and I wanted to circle back to that because your attitude about how you perceive things affects what you do with your life. And so somebody going through a traumatic situation like that could, nobody would blame you, but you could get on the pity pot and be like the why me type thing, or you can let it empower you and inspire you to do things to change your life. right? And so you turn that opportunity. Who knows if you would have gotten into this whole business and scaled it as quickly as you did if you didn't go through that experience. And so I tell people all the time, like, if you're going through the shit right now, good, because there's always something good that's going to come out of it, even when you're in the moment and you might be there right now and you're like, screw you, dude. And
Mhm.
I've been there, dude. My kid was on oxygen for like a year and a half. Like, I get it. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have started this business, or it would have taken me a lot longer. So there's always byproducts of things and life events that come around and just slap you in the face that are like, dude, you should reevaluate what you're doing. But it all depends how
Absolutely.
you look at it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, I feel like positivity in that journey, especially like we were positive. My wife and I were very positive people, anyways. But when I was diagnosed, she actually was with the kids. She wasn't in the hospital with me, and she was pretty upset at the doctors for saying it without her being there. But they told me, and I called her, and I told her, and I'll never forget. What she said was, "Okay, let's figure this out." And instead of like freaking out and screaming and crying and whatnot, she just said, "Okay, we're gonna get an action plan, and we're gonna charge forward, and we're gonna look, for solutions, not anything else." You could
Mhm.
go on the internet and see some really scary things about pancreatic cancer, and I'm not saying to fully ignore that stuff, but you don't need to go on the internet and look at it, because it's going to drag you down. You can rely on your doctors. You can rely on, we found as many survivors of the disease as possible, so that we could talk to them and see what they did, and what tricks and tips we can use. And now, being a survivor myself, I've made it a point to talk to as many people as I can and kind of help them out. If I could give them any tricks about, how to get through chemotherapy, or, just anything along the journey that would help their health and maybe keep them alive, I'm more than willing to do it.
Yeah, I love that. I
Mm.
love that. Um, you got anything else, man? I feel like we were all over the place today, but this was good stuff.
No, it was
Yeah.
good. And like I don't know, dude. It's because it's so inspiring, because I am a go-to like positive thinking kind of person myself. But then there is avenues and avenues, right? And like being able to have the support system and to actually embody that positivity when shit actually goes bad. Um, because it's like what Ram Dass talks about, right? You can think you're enlightened in your cave in the mountains, right? But then go home to your family for a week and see how enlightened you really are, right?
Right.
And it's the same thing. It's just like, yay, positivity. Yeah, positivity. And it's like trafficking. You're just like, ugh, fuck everybody. And like you get sick and you're like, oh no, and so like it's just inspiring, you know what I mean? And knowing that story, I'm not at all surprised of like how you've executed your plan over the last, you know, 24 months.
Well, and there's all different types of personalities, obviously, and going through something like I did, and what other people, if they've gone through something crazy, do. It motivates us more to get a different kind of plan, and me creating this real estate business was one of them. But
Mhm.
like, if you haven't gone through that, and you might know of someone like myself or you guys who are doing it, it might seem overwhelming to be like, I don't even know how to start. I don't know where to learn. I don't know where to whatever. So it's like there's different levels. You could, if you don't have the interest of learning, and you don't have to be as active as us, you could buy a place and hire a property manager or a co-host or a property management company, and not self-manage like we do. You could invest in syndication, you could invest in a fund. I just feel like having that security is just the most important thing. And if you like it like we do, like I love building this business, and I feel like you guys do as well.
Mhm.
um, it gets me excited, and like I want to progress or whatever, but that might not be you. So I think building your wealth is still so important. There are other ways to do it where you could be way more passive.
Yeah. And there's no shame in it. Like I think there's also
None.
like that idea of like if I need to do this, I need to do a side hustle. It needs to be hard, Whereas it's just like, dude, embrace who you are. Like if you're like a software engineer that makes a shit ton of money, that you love just sitting in your room and coding, there is guys like us out there, or there is somebody out there that you can just go to and be like, just make me money.
Absolutely.
I don't want to know nothing about it. Right. It's just not like, there's not like, we don't need to all be little soldiers and wear the scars of war. Right. Like it's not a necessary thing anymore. Like you can own your skill and be really good, and then surround yourself with really high quality people that help understand your goals and your mission, and then help you execute it.
Well,
And
it's
like there is lovely people out there that will take your goals to heart and execute on them on your behalf, because that's what they love doing, right? Like I love making my clients money.
Yep.
Right. I get excited when I'm doing like the owner distributions. I'm like, holy shit, they make so much money. Like, it's awesome, you
Yeah.
know? So there is people out there like that,
Absolutely.
Yeah, bro, we were a bit all over the place today. Also because you're not railing me in as much as you usually do. So unfortunately, the nature of this conversation.
I let E loose today.
Yeah.
Let E loose.
I like it.
Yeah, we had a blast, man. So where can people learn more about you? Where can they see your cabins? Where can they come and stay?
On Instagram, Bunkhouse Worldwide is my account, and I post some things about my cabins. I post about renovations we're doing and some investing advice and stuff like that. And you could DM me there as well.
Love it. Love it. So, Josh, the question we ask all of our guests to wrap up is, what is your number one secret to success with short-term rentals?
I think we take the approach of what my wife said when I got diagnosed was, okay, let's figure this out, and not freaking out over problems and just focusing on the solution versus, getting emotional.
There will be problems, ladies and gentlemen.
There
I don't
will
care
be.
what business it is. That's
Yep.
what we do. We solve problems. That's all business is. So great advice. Great advice. Well, Josh, thank you again for coming on here, man. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Just wishing you the best for 2023 and all your growth. So thank
Likewise.
you again.
Thank
Ciao,
you.
All right,
guys.
everybody. Take care. Hey, STR Nation, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And in the comments, let us know what topics you want us to cover on upcoming episodes, and we'll make sure to get that in the books for you. And if you really want to learn how to launch, automate, and scale your short-term rental business, if you want to go deeper, then check out our free masterclass at strsecrets.com.